Hey everyone, how's it going? My name is Scrassy, and today we're going to be looking into what is a custom event. So, by the end of this video, we'll be answering what is a custom event, why do we use them in Unreal Engine at all, and how can we use them in our own projects. So, let's get straight into it. So, I'm using the third person template by Unreal Engine. So, I'm going to go in here in the BP underscore third person character class. And I'm going to show you, first of all, what an event is before going into a custom event. So what is an event? An event is a node that has a red and black color palette. Now, that's not the definition of an event, but that's what you will see. An event itself is a node that goes and activates and is basically the finger that pushes over the dominoes. It's the node that fires off and starts the chain of functions and variables, stuff like that. So a good example is our event begin play. And we can see that an event is also very easily found, or basically you can easily tell if it's an event or not, because it only has an output execution pin. It doesn't have an input. And that's because, like I said before, it is the finger that pushes over the first domino. It doesn't have anything. There's no finger that pushes over the finger. There's only the one finger. Okay. So this event begin play has nothing triggering it. It is the trigger. It is what fires off at the very start. Okay. When this third person character is spawned into the level, it's going to fire this begin play off, and then it's going to go and cast, it's going to go do all these things, blah, blah, blah. You also have events that are like this. We have IA_look or move or jump. And these are events that are input. So input events, things that you create as the developer, and you'll put them you'll create an input action, put them inside I think it's called mapping context, I think. And then you'll get these things. And their events as well, you can see, because they have no input execution pin, no input variables, nothing. They just have only output execution pins and only output variables. Okay. And they will fire off when an input is made. So for example, on IA jump, when the player presses the space button, it's going to fire this started off, and it's going to trigger this jump. Okay. However, when it's completed, so when the character lets go of it, it's going to stop jumping. Okay. And so those are events. You can tell they're events mainly because, again, they don't have an input of any sorts. They have a red and black color palette. And they also will have this little arrow pointing to the right. It's kind of symbol. And sometimes they have this delegate. Okay. You can see the input actions don't have a delegate because they don't need one. A delegate is used for, let's say this event begin play. If I put it into a timer, it's the timer by event. Okay. I've already made a video about timers. So go watch that video. I do explain a little bit on what a delegate is in that video. So I probably won't be making a specific video on what delegates are, but it does explain a little bit on what it is in that timer video. But to sum it up, basically, this is an input. So I'm saying, hey, set this timer, and let's say every 1 second, we want this timer to fire off. But the timer itself isn't going to fire off, okay? What it's going to do is it's going to use the event that we've used. So this event begin play, we've plugged into here. And we're going to say, hey, this begin play event, we want to fire off every 1 second. So after 1 second, this event's going to tell, or this timer is going to tell this event to fire off. It's delegating. It's saying, hey, delegating is going, hey, I want you to do those tasks. Let's say if you're in a house and you go to someone, hey, I got to do these chores, but I need to go pick up a friend from work. Can you do them for me? And they go, yeah, okay, cool. Then you're delegating your task to them. You're giving your workload to them for them to do, and you're telling them what to do. That's delegates. So some of them have these little delegate pins, and that's what they're for. Okay, but that's mostly what an event is. A custom event, if we type it up, okay, is an event that you've made yourself. So let's call this one testing, or just test. Okay, And these events are ones that are made from in the engine. So the input events are kind of between a custom event and an engine event, if that's what you want to call them. Like an engine event is like an event begin play where it's inside the engine. You don't create a begin play event. It's already created for you inside the engine. This though is you do have to create an input first and then it'll create an event off that. But a true custom event, you'll see it says custom event here, and it again has the little delegate as well as the little arrow. Okay. So what do these do? These custom events are your own custom way of transferring or triggering data or functions between classes, or also just in the same class. So if I go and compile and I go print string, okay, oh. Done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put this actually above here. Okay. Now we've created our custom event. Okay. Which this is an event. So it's going to fire off. However, because it's custom, we still need it. It's almost acting as, it's not going to be like the finger that pushes over the domino. It's kind of going to be like similar to another domino. So I'll share what that means now. If we go test, we type that in, you can see it says call function. Even though this is a custom event, it's considered a function because we've created a custom, some custom code or whatever it is. And you can see it says test, and you know it's an event because again, it has this little arrow pointing to the right. Click that and boom, look, we've got this here. And you can see it kind of looks like a function. Okay. Now, and you can see it's got the same name. Okay. But instead of having F on the left of the test or on the left of the name, it has that little event symbol. Okay, so instead of it being a function, it's basically an event caller. It calls the event. So if let's say we put this, let's just put this over here. Okay, so what's going to happen is on event begin play, it's going to go through all this stuff here. Okay, and then it's going to call this test. So it's going to call it, meaning it's going to trigger this, which is going to trigger this event here. Okay. And then it's going to do whatever is off this. So that's the print string there. Awesome. So now you might be looking ahead and go, okay, why do we need to target? The reason why we need to target is same thing with functions. If you ever use functions, but or anything that requires accessing stuff from other classes. So right now, because this is in our own class, this is okay. Okay, we don't have to worry about the target. It's going to be self because this is in our class. However, I did make a test cube blueprint here, actor class. And what we can do is on, let's do and type up a custom, and we'll call it test print. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is, okay, actually, let me just show off what this is doing here. Okay, so after this event begin play goes, it will fire the soft test. It's going to trigger this test event. It's going to print hello name, or it's going to print hello, and boom, you can see it prints hello. Okay, let's do a more advanced one. So what we're going to do is we're going to do get a capsule component. Okay, because you can use capsule components for overlap events. Go to begin overlap. I'm not talking about what overlap events do. I'm just going to go and do it. I'll talk about that in another video. I'm going to go to here. I'm going to do casting. If you don't know what casting is or how to do it, the whole concept behind it, I strongly urge you to watch my casting video that I made like a week ago. It's doing quite well. A lot of people are liking it. And so go and give it a watch, and it tells you, I tell you, a very in-depth understanding, explain what everything's doing and why you would use casting, when you would use casting, when not to use casting, all this stuff. So go watch that. Awesome. Then what we can do is, because we're casting to our test cube, okay, we're going to go and do test print, and that's going to be print string. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to go print, test print. There we are. Okay, awesome. So what's going to happen is that when we overlap on this cube, it should print hello. Awesome. So you can see how now what we're doing is that we've got this test print custom event that we've made ourselves. We're going to print off a string just like we did before. Okay, but this won't get fired off until we trigger it. And we are triggering it by going, hey, when our capsule overlaps with this test cube, it's going to overlap with an actor. If the actor that we overlap is a test cube, then we're going to go and get that test cube's test print custom event. You can call it shoot. Let's say it's let's say if we overlap on something and we can do, let's call it like damage. If we overlap with it, let's say we're overlapping fire, then we're going to start taking damage. Then you can call this damage thing and whatever. Awesome. And this would be just like how if you wanted to get a function from that class as well. So you can call that. And one last thing, let's say for this, okay, you want to transfer data from this class. You don't just want to call this test print. You also want to transfer your character's name, or you want to transfer some data. How do you do that? You can do that through the use of inputs, okay? Just like a function, you can have inputs and outputs. However, with events, you can only have inputs, and it's just a way of transferring data from one class to another. So we can go like this, and we can add an input, okay? Now, there are multiple ways or like different ways you can do inputs in terms of like, you know, what you can add, stuff like that. You can have a boolean and stuff like that. They're just variables, right? But let's say I make this one called char ref, okay? What this is doing is this is getting a reference to my, if I type here BP, third person character, it's getting a reference to my third person character, okay? And this is char ref, stands or short for character reference, okay? Now, what we can do is that basically if we go compile, you can see here now we have an input. We can pass something in here. Normally, I would go like this and type self and put that underneath there. And then now we're passing our self in. So this class's self or this class into this print, this test print function or event. And then what we can do is we can say, hey, okay, whoever's calling this event, when this gets fired off, we're going to get the person who called this event. And let's see if we can get its display name. Do display name. There we go. Boom. Done. Let's look at that. Now this should be BP underscore third person character. There we go. Look at that. Awesome. Well, that's basically it, guys, for all that. Like, you can add as many ones as you want in. You can do a boolean and boom. And then now you can see there's a boolean here. So you can pass a boolean parameter in, or you can just go and tick it, whatever you want. That's the whole gist of custom events. It allows you to either you do things for like organization. If you have a massive, let's say you have a really long thing of code, you can divide it in two and just have it one underneath each other and use custom events to organize. But most of the time you're going to do stuff like this where you're calling events from other places. So useful things to do this in is like if you had a gun class, let's say this test cube was a gun class and this was called shoot. Let's say this one here was called shoot. Then what you do is that you would have like all your shooting logic inside your class, your gun class or your weapon class. And then you would have the input. Let's say here, this is an input shoot. You would say that when we click our mouse button, we go and fire off this shoot event, and then it will go and trigger from our character class, but all the mechanics and all the functionalities inside our gun class. That's basically it, guys. So thanks for coming in as well. Don't forget to subscribe as well. We're almost at 110, or we'll probably be at 110 by the time you see this video. So don't forget to sub so you don't miss out on my other videos, and also go and check out my other previous videos. I do have a really cool procedural recoil system that I made, and also another few videos and things like casting, stuff like that. So thanks for coming in, and I'll see you guys in the next one.